welcome to Raise Sensation. I'm your host, Dan, and on this episode, I am going to be talking about Alex Turbin's SIREEN the Cleric. All right, so like I said, this video, I'm going to be looking at this comic by Alex Turbin. Now, I'm not sure where I first heard about Alex. It's only been the last couple months. Might have been on Instagram, people sharing his art, or it might have been Facebook. It might have been him sharing it. It might have been somebody else. I don't know. I'm only pretty recent on Instagram, so I don't really have a lot of things I'm following there yet. If anybody wants to hit me up on Instagram, it's Rave Sensation, and you can follow me there. And if you're posting cool stuff, I'd like to follow that too. I make the mistake occasionally of looking at animal videos on Instagram, and then I'm just totally flooded with just that and not comic art. It's my own fault. I can't resist a cute cat or dog, or even a lizard for that matter. So I went to his website, and I think he mostly is doing, Patreon, subscribe to his Patreon and look at his stuff online. I don't really, I would have to do that on my phone. I'm not crazy about that. But in the meantime, he also has these printed versions of his stuff, and it's really inexpensive. So we'll go along. We'll talk a little bit about where to get these. And he's got a couple different series. I'm going to be looking at this one, but let's talk just a little bit about these. Not a lot, because I save that for another time. Mutandis is his superhero team-up book. And it's in color on newsprint. Not sure how he managed that, but it looks really, it looks really good. The colors and everything. And like I said, it's a superhero team one. Now, that was the first issue. This second issue is black and white, which is also fine. A lot of posing in this one. Both these issues are interesting. And then in the third issue, this one here, things really start to heat up, and there's a lot more happening. And like I said, it's a superhero thing. Superheroes are not my main interests, although I do make exceptions for stuff that's really hits my nostalgia button, and this kind of does. This definitely looks like, this looks like he could have been making this in the 80s for the black and white boom. And then there's Sorlorn, which is, at first it starts off like a really cool, like it's going to be a cool fantasy thing. And then it transports these characters, and they look like a D&D group, and they get transported to what I guess is pretty much present day. I've got 2 copies of that. Again, this is done, some of these are newsprint in color. So it looks pretty good. And then she drinks his stuff, and then she vomits up on the monster. Like I said, I don't want to go into these right now. I have one series that I want to talk about. This one ends up, most of this one is in the past, but here it is in the present. You could be forgiven for thinking this was also set in the past, because there's very little background to make the setting. They're mostly fighting in these piles of rubble from where they've destroyed the park they were fighting in. Then there's Random Access, which I take it is supposed to be, and they've got 9 issues of this. This was listed as an anthology, but it looks like it mostly, although he lists the different his different comics, they really mostly seem to be about this particular character. And again, it's fantasy characters flipping back and forth between the present and wherever this fantasy dimension is. So now let's get on to this. This is the one we're here for. This is the one that caught my eye. I was really looking for some more sword and sorcery with female leads kind of thing, and I thought this might fit the bill. This one is more high fantasy, you know, like these, but it does have a bit of that sword and sorcery edge to it. So, and it does have some weird, even though it seems set in a fantasy thing, there are some vestiges of like that weird tech stuff that somehow ends up in these situations. There's very little setup. The queen of this group here is casting her out, and this, I'm sorry, this is SIREEN the Cleric. And so I imagine she's a cleric. The queen's sister has convinced her to do something she shouldn't have, and so she's cast out. And now her hands are tied, she's thrown off a waterfall, but they apparently know that that's not going to kill her, and that's okay. Do not return, SIREEN. You'll be put to death, my friend. So now she's an outcast. And then here come these. These look like the fish monsters from that, I guess, early 80s schlock thing with Barbara Bach, which has been released under like 3 different names. But this fish creature to remind me of them, the ones from that film. And so they capture her, and they're going to carve her up. I'll not be fish food. And but before she can fight for herself, this knight jumps in, or this guy in some kind of armor, and starts cutting up the poor froggy people. Frog people got to eat too, you know. And then before we get very far as exposition or anything, along comes a dragon to attack them and start carrying them away. And this looks like marker coloring to me. It's not on the newsprint, but I think it's really fun. I like the artwork here. I like the characters. And it turns out, you know, she does have some power there that she uses. And then it turns out that even though they escaped from the dragon, the person the dragon was bringing them to, they've still ended up at his doorstep. Now, I'm not going to go through, again, I kind of went through that one, spoiler alert, but I didn't read it all to you. But I won't go through this one as much. So this fellow here has daughters who have some kind of thing that makes them shriek all the time. Or he says, how many wives do you have? But it turns out that they're really kind of, he's created them. So he's really more like their, you know, he's really more like their father or something for them. You can see one of them there. And then, so you get talked to about this wacky thing. That's actually a pretty good shot there, showing them walking up the spiral staircase. That's a fun bit of business there. And woohoo! There we go, a monster. That's the girl they had seen earlier. That's what she really looks like when she's unbound. And so action ensues. Like I said, I don't want to give away the ending of this second one. But there you go. That's what these look like. I think this is a lot of fun. I think Alex has written these. They're very, you know, they're very run-of-the-mill kind of adventures for these things. But I had a lot of fun. Like I said, I was mostly looking for something that would scratch an itch I had for these things. And Alex's work does that. I think if you're into this kind of stuff, definitely worth a look. And like I said, they're very inexpensive, or you can sign up for his Patreon and you know, look at them that way. Okay? And now, one last thing. While I was looking for things to scratch that itch, I also discovered this, Karina. I haven't gotten issue 1 yet, but I do have that coming, so I'm going to look at that separately, even though it's, you know, it would make a fitting companion to this book, except for adults only. So there's a lot of nudity in this, and this one also has some out-of-place science kind of stuff in it. A lot of these fantasies seem to have that. Like I said, a lot of nudity. There's a little nudity in Alex's book, but not enough. I don't think Facebook is going to flag this adults only. This will be adults only, so I don't want to look at this on the same one. I don't want to get this book in trouble. But when I get issue 1, I'll do a video on that. Okay? All right. Thank you for watching.